Is your magic meter running low? Well, we've got a cure for you. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show, we discuss the latest attraction to open at Walt Disney World, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Now, I personally haven't had the chance to experience it in person yet, so I have my buddy Brandon joining me, who wrote it and loved it. From what I've watched on video, it looks like an extremely fun attraction, perfect for the 21st century audience. It only took 92 years since the creation of Mickey and Minnie, but we now have the first ride ever dedicated to Mickey and Minnie Mouse. In addition to the new ride, we talk about the new Mickey Shorts Theater that opened alongside Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, along with some discussion about the hidden tributes within the attraction, and whether or not we think this was the right attraction to replace the Great Movie Ride in the Chinese Theater at Disney's Hollywood Studios. All of that and so much more right after this. When you think of Audible, you may just think of audiobooks for adults. After all, Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. But they also have many audio children's books available to you for free. If your little ones love Mickey Mouse, I suggest the Mickey and Minnie Story Compilation, featuring 5-minute Mickey Mouse stories, 5-minute Minnie Tales, and more. It's available right now for free over at audibletrial.com/DCTC. If you're an adult looking for an audiobook, you can also find tons of Disney titles that you'll just love. Go ahead and search for your free audiobook over at audibletrial.com/DCTC. There are tons of options. That's audibletrial.com/DCTC.
It's time to dive into today's Disney dialogue.
Hey Brandon, welcome back to the show. It's been a while, and I just knew I had to have you on for this episode because you sent me a text that, I gotta be honest, kind of shocked me. Do you know what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, I thought it might shock you.
Yeah, you said that you liked Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway more than you liked Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. And I'm curious, some time has passed since you've sent that text. Do you still feel that way?
It's just fun. It's just like, I don't want to say mindless fun, because it's not like there's still a story that you can still follow, and it's still very like, I don't know, I feel like you can still very much follow the story, but it's just, it's less stressful. I find Rise of the Resistance to be stressful. It stresses me out.
You're so funny because, like, I know, I'm going to say it, Dinosaur scares you.
Dinosaur's terrifying. Dinosaur's awful.
Dinosaur's not awful. Dinosaur's fantastic, but you are legitimately scared of it. And apparently Rise stresses you out. I didn't realize that. Like, I would understand that if you had said that about Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, because, you know, you do have a job to do and stuff. But Rise, you're just sitting there. What are you stressed out about?
You're sitting there, but there's like a billion things that can go wrong with it's not even like the story. It's just the attraction itself freaks me out. There's a trillion and one things that can go wrong.
Sure.
That do go wrong.
All right, so Mickey and Minnie's
All the time.
Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, not stressing you out nearly as much. I want to start with, even before we get into the attraction, they did something really, I think, quite smart, and they opened the Mickey Shorts Theater, showing the short film Vacation Fun. And now this is where Star Wars Path of the Jedi was playing for a very long time, and before that, it was many, many other things. But I thought this was really smart because I don't know about you, but I don't really watch the Mickey shorts. I've heard great things. I probably should watch them, but I've never really gotten into them. How about you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I love the old shorts. Like, my favorite thing ever is on the resort TV at Walt Disney World when you're just like sitting there and the old Mickey shorts start playing. And it's like the original style of Mickey. And I think that's what I've just gotten used to. So when they debuted the new style on Disney Channel and on YouTube, I like couldn't get into the style of Mickey. and
Yeah.
the whole world itself. They're very well done, actually, and I think I've come around to them because I've been forced to watch them so much, but I think I like them now. But at first, no, I was like not a fan.
Yeah, they've never intrigued me enough to really sit down and watch. I've watched maybe one or two of them. I will say I find them funny. Now, they do, and I don't know if the same people were involved or not, but I call it the Ren and Stimpy style. And one of the things that they show, even in this Vacation Fun short, is like there's a scene, and I think this is a clip from another short, where Mickey's wearing a sweater and he's getting this rash and stuff. And like they zoom in on these grotesque features, which is something they used to do on Ren and Stimpy all the time, which is why I didn't watch it, because it grossed me out. And
Yeah.
these kind of have that style. People love them, though. It's super, super popular.
It's just interesting to me, like, I think we grew up, obviously not even the same generation, but everyone up to this point has grown up with the style of Mickey that everyone's used to. Like, it hasn't changed.
Well, I mean, it definitely feels like these harken back to the Walt Mickey kind of style.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting, like, kids growing up now, like, this is the Mickey that they know. So, moving forward, like, I think everyone who's grown up with this, like, this is just normal. Like, it is what it is at this point.
Well, I wouldn't say that, only because the Mickey we meet in the park still is classic Mickey, and that's something that, as a continuity person, I have an issue with this. They treat these shorts like a very, very separate thing, even with all the characters. Goofy looks very different, Donald, all of them look very, very different.
Yeah.
So it's its own thing. And that's okay, but it's a little weird for continuity's sake. Even Mickey's voice is a different voice actor, so it's a little strange to me.
Wait a sec, so Brett isn't the voice of Mickey in the shorts?
No, not in the shorts. It's a voice actor named Chris Diamantopoulos, and he is the voice of Mickey Mouse for all of those shorts as well as the attraction and stuff. So it's a different style of Mickey. It's a different voice actor. It's a little bit all over the place. But it's something that people seem to love. So, like I said, I think they were very, very, very smart to put this in there. Number one, let's face it, Star Wars Path of the Jedi, even though I really loved that film, had been there for a long time. And obviously that was to make people familiar with that world for the new land coming. And that's exactly what the Mickey Shorts Theater is doing. And they did rename the theater, the Mickey Shorts Theater. The short is called Vacation Fun. And, they do quote it in saying an original animated short with Mickey and Minnie. It's kind of an exaggeration because there is new animation, but it's basically kind of like a highlights of the, some of the episodes. Have you seen this at all? Did you see it in person or online?
I did. I got to go into the theater and watch it. It's interesting. I think it's a better use of the space than Path of the Jedi was in the current situation of Hollywood studios.
Yeah. So one of the things that surprised me, like I said, it references or shows clips from the original series a lot. And one of the things that surprised me was how many Disney parks references is actually on the show. And that's part of the reason why I think it's popular. I think, Disney fans just love seeing that stuff. But that surprised me.
It's just like fun. So I think it's kind of refreshing when you get to see it because they don't poke fun at themselves a whole lot anymore.
Yeah, and they showed some clips from like Haunted Mansion type of episodes, and then Potato Land, which I had heard about forever.
Listen, Potato Land is such a weird concept to me because when you exit the Mickey Shorts Theater, there's a photo op with a potato.
Yeah,
have you seen this?
I saw that there were a bunch of different photo ops available. I didn't specifically say. People love Potato Land. In fact, I saw a lot of people being like, is there going to be Potato Land merchandise? And I think that there actually are t-shirts and stuff.
Why? It's so weird. There's a photo op. It's a potato on a pedestal. And there's a background of like one of the sketches from Potato Land. Whatever.
Yeah.
I find it funny.
People love it.
It's
so
whatever.
yeah. I'd only heard Potato Land. I never really knew what it was until seeing this clip of the short, and it's like, oh, it's like a Disneyland with potatoes, and apparently that's a thing. I gotta go back and watch the short is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But one other thing that I found interesting, parks related in there, was, we see Minnie Mouse's house at one point, and it's very, very reminiscent of Minnie's house in Mickey's Toontown here at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, wow, even that is drawn. Yeah, there's a lot of parks references. I think that's fun. And it even ends at Magic Kingdom, which I thought was funny because Mickey and Minnie are going on vacation, essentially to the place where they work, which I thought was kind of strange.
Yeah, and they used to live, but their house is no more.
Well, that was their vacation homes. They live at Disneyland, and their vacation homes were at Magic Kingdom. So
Was that the story?
Yeah, that's the story that they
I don't
tell.
know. That was before me. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So yeah, that's how they dealt with that, was that those were their vacation homes. So I guess that does make sense to end at Magic Kingdom. In any case, that's there. So I would say, obviously people will run immediately to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway for the shorter lines. But I'd say if you are not familiar with the shorts, you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice if you don't go to the theater first to check them out, or check out at least a couple of them before you go on the ride. Because I think it'll plus it, because the ride, which we'll get into, does a great job recreating those shorts, and it's unbelievable. But before we get there, I want to touch on the dedication ceremony they had for this attraction. The Disney Parks blog did a live stream of this. These live streams, I think that they're great that they're available. I just have a hard time with fake excitement.
I was going to ask, because I was there, so I didn't watch the live stream. I was in the park. Who was it?
It's the typical Disney Parks Live people who doing it, and there's just a lot of, hey, we're here, and
Yeah.
I watch them for the actual presentation as opposed to like the before show and after show thing. I'm sure they're all very nice people. I just have a very hard time with fake excitement, and that's very much what a lot of those things are. But, Josh D'Amaro came out, president of Walt Disney World Resort, and
Would die for Josh.
Josh, that's the job to have. I got to tell you, like, even more than CEO, I feel like he has
100%.
the better job.
100%.
I think he might be the next guy for, Chapek's old job. I think that's a pretty darn good chance of happening, I'd say. And, I wouldn't be against that. I'd be for it. But in any case, he was part of the presentation. I gotta say, this presentation was much smaller than I expected. I thought they'd really roll out the red carpet for this presentation, but it was fairly small. There were maybe 6 dancers or something like that, and,
The Disney Parks Live Entertainment team, I know, worked on the whole ceremony. Like, there was, original choreography, and they remixed the whole song, and there was a lot that was there.
The song was incredible. I don't know, it was just small. It just felt...
It was small.
It wasn't bad. It was just small compared to what I expected. I thought, especially this attraction that's been being, let's face it, hyped for years now, because...
That's true.
It opened a year later than we were originally told, and it is the first attraction featuring Mickey and Minnie. So I just thought there'd be a bit more pomp and circumstance over it than we got. But, it was what it was. Now, the characters, as I said, it was either the Fab Five or the Sensational Six, I can't remember which, were part of this presentation. And like we said, it was the classic characters we know and love from the parks, who look very different from the characters in the shorts and in this attraction. So I just find that weird. I don't know. Somebody once said to me, well, maybe Disney's Hollywood Studios, like the character meet and greets there, will look more like the shorts now, and that's how they'll live at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And I was like, that's an interesting theory, but they're obviously not doing that. I don't know. It's interesting to me. Most people don't care and don't even think about it, I'm sure.
I think most guests can separate that in their minds more than we probably can.
Yeah.
So they don't even, they leave the attraction, they're like, oh, there's Mickey. They don't even think that, oh, he looks different than the Mickey I just saw. I think it's just, Mickey is Mickey.
Sure.
At this point.
Now let's get to the actual ride, or at least the exterior of the building. I love the Chinese theater at Disney's Hollywood Studios. It's fantastic. And one thing before you even enter the building is this new neon sign that is hanging on the theater that people had some very strong opinions about. And it's so funny because I honestly think it's fine, and I feel like if anybody was going to be offended by it would probably be me. But I'm pretty okay with it, to be honest.
It's a lot at night. I'll give him that. It's a lot, but I think people had a problem with the fact that they put a marquee on the facade of an attraction.
Well, what I like about it is the fact that maybe people don't remember, but historically, these were done for big movies, like movie premieres and stuff. These types of neon signs were created for those to hang at the theater. So the concept of we're going to the Chinese theater to see a Mickey and Minnie short called Perfect Picnic, the sign makes sense in that sense.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it looks cool. I mean, I haven't seen it in person, but
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but they were a lot. I think the complaint was probably the fact that it's kind of, covering up some nice architecture of the Chinese theater, which I get. But I don't know. I didn't have as strong of an opinion on this as a lot of people seem to in the Twitterverse. So
There was, on Twitter specifically, there was complaints that they were ruining the show and putting a, fake sign on, a real theater. And my response to that was, every attraction has a marquee somewhere.
well, not only that,
it says the name of the attraction,
and it's not a real theater.
Right. We're also in Disney's Hollywood Studios. Calm down, everyone.
So once you go inside the lobby, now you obviously got to experience this in person. I did not. This lobby's been closed for a long time since the Great Movie Ride closed. How did it seem from the videos I saw? It looks pretty similar, except for the posters that they have, some digital posters advertising the Mickey shorts.
Yeah, it's interesting because it looks pretty much the same, right? But we know that it was gutted completely. So what's there is brand new. All of it is
even
brand
the
new.
lobby?
Even the lobby was gutted. So the carpet is brand new, the wallpaper is brand new, the things on the ceilings are brand new, the beams, all of it's brand new, but it looks very, very similar to what was originally there. So it's I think the carpet probably was recreated from what was there because it's the exact same pattern, but I know that it's brand new.
Interesting.
So it's interesting to me how...
I thought they would have kept the lobby the same. That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me how they did it. And when I was there for previews, and parts of it weren't quite done yet even, and there were pieces of beams missing from the ceiling and things like that. And now that they're there, they look the exact same, but just knowing that they weren't there a week before, I'm like, oh, those are new. They're new beams. But it's interesting how they went about it, but it looks great. I think it's pretty.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah, and like I said, they created these digital signs to advertise the different Mickey shorts, and those were created specifically for this attraction, so it's pretty cool. I liked what I saw. And then I gotta tell you, in the pre-show room, which I was actually gonna ask you, I had a feeling that there are multiples of these little pre-show rooms, right? It's because at first I thought,
Correct.
Is this the theater where we used to see the trailers during Great Movie Ride? But you're saying that's completely gone. Okay.
Yeah, so everything's been restructured, of course, but that whole pre-show room and then the ramp leading down to the pre-shows is completely different and new because there are multiple pre-show rooms that alternate. So one will get done, those guests will go into load, and then the other one will start. So there's one pre-show room is constantly loading into the load area of the attraction.
Interesting. So now this pre-show room is one of the greatest pre-shows I've ever seen, with an effect
It's the best.
I didn't see coming from a mile away. I got to tell you, Did you have any idea about this before you went in?
Unfortunately, yes, okay. I did. But it's very well done, and I knew that it was coming, but I still had no clue how it was going to work. And even after I had seen it once in person, I was like, I'm really not 100% sure how that happens. How are we going to say what it is?
I was going to say, so here we go. Here's some serious spoilers coming your way, folks. Sure, go ahead and describe it.
Okay, so essentially what happens is the train that Conductor Goofy is driving crashes into a barn, and smoke fills the screen, on the screen, like cartoon smoke, and then real smoke comes out of the screen, and it opens up. It's almost like it's ripped into the screen, and through the screen is the cartoon world that you're watching in the cartoon, but you get to actually enter it. So you're going from watching the short to actually walking into the screen, into the world of Mickey and Minnie and their friends. But the way that it's done is the screen opens up and smoke comes out, and you get to actually walk into that cartoon world. And it's kind of mind-boggling when you see it at first, because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way that it should be able to do what it does, but it does.
Even, I rewatched it several times, and even second, third, fourth time knowing what was going to happen, I still don't really see the mechanics of it. Of course, it's probably easier to tell in person. I'd say the best comparison to this is probably if you've experienced Enchanted Tales with Belle. I'm not saying the effect is the same, but the portal, the mirror into the Belle and Beast's world is such a cool effect that you just don't really see coming. the first time you do it. And that's what I would say about this is the first time that you do it, it's just like, whoa, it shocked me. And it was just really, really well done from what I could see.
It's so seamless.
And it was just
so well done.
Yeah, just a great way to start the attraction. And there's, a little bit more queue after that, right?
A little bit, not much. You just go, there's probably 3 or 4 switchbacks, and then you load onto the attraction pretty much immediately. And it's interesting because those pre-show rooms are small. Right? So it doesn't allow a very large amount of guests to actually like go through and then queue in the next room.
Yeah.
So it keeps that flowing pretty, like once you're in that pre-show room, you only have probably a maximum of 10 minutes waiting.
So it's just pulsing the crowd essentially, really well.
It's very well done. Like it works really, really, really well moving guests through that area.
Nice. So then you load up in your ride vehicles. Now, these ride vehicles are trackless ride vehicles. They do look, like a train when you're boarding. There's 4 different ride vehicles, and they're all separate, but they have tracks painted on the ground, and they're, next to each other as you're loading. And it does look like a train with the front of the train on and stuff. But then, as you get into the attraction, they separate. And they just, obviously trains in Disney parks goes all the way back to the original park with Walt and his love of trains. So there's kind of that nice little tribute there as part of the story. And as you mentioned, Goofy is in the front car driving this train. And, it's a simple effect, but essentially when you're riding in the train, these windows open on the front and you can see Goofy inside there driving you along. And it's fun. I will say, I did watch video of all the different ride vehicles, views from all the different ride vehicles, and you are getting different experiences for sure, depending on where you're sitting. If I had my preference, I would say first or second are probably best, but if you really want the full experience, you got to ride this thing at least 4 times from each ride vehicle.
It's true.
Do you have a favorite that you've experienced?
So I've done all 4, I think. If I haven't done all 4, I've done at least 3.
Okay.
But I know for sure, like, number 2 is one of my favorites because you get to see, and I think we'll talk about this in a second probably, but in the beginning, you turn a corner, and that's when a kind of big, important part of the story happens. But if you're not in one of those first 3 train vehicles, you can't actually see it happen.
Are you talking about the transformation or the Mickey and Minnie in the car?
Well, both. So that whole scene, Mickey and Minnie come out from around the corner, and they hit the pole.
Yeah.
And the pole falls over. But if you're in train 4, you not only don't get to see them actually kind of come around the corner, you don't see them hit the pole. You just see it fall over, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You don't see Goofy in the conductor, like the front locomotive train part. You don't get to see the windows open, and then you really don't even see the front car detached from the rest of the train if you're in the back.
What they do is, and this is obviously a tough thing to do when you have ride vehicles all going through a ride at the same time, but obviously at different portions of it. It's a very, very hard timing logistical thing to work out. So what I found is usually what it is if you're in the front portions, you are seeing the storytelling. And if you're in the back portions, you're oftentimes hearing the storytelling. So,
hearing and feeling.
Yeah. So,
So the cars vibrate and stuff.
So with the thing about the switching the tracks, though, and Mickey and Minnie crash in to that pole, like if you're in the front ones, you'll see them actually knock it over. If you're in the back, you'll hear them make reference to it. So, if you're paying attention, you can definitely still catch the full story. But this is a ride, like many rides these days, these are built partially for repeatability. They know that people are coming to these parks over and over and over again and want new experiences. And so that's what they're giving us, and at the same time doing the best they can to make sure everybody gets a beginning, middle, end story. And I think they do a great job at it, but like you said, I think the 2 front cars are probably your best options. I know the first time that I actually get to ride it, I will be requesting one of the 2 front cars.
And of course, that's getting very picky. It's still a great attraction, I think, regardless of where you sit. And the cool thing is, if you're in the back car, you don't end up in the back when you end. They switch order.
Yeah,
which is cool.
So there are definitely scenes where, if you're in the back cars, you spend more time in certain rooms.
Right.
We'll get to that. Like the whole underwater scene I was watching, I was like, oh, the first one goes through it pretty quickly. The last one, you're in there for a while. But let's get to the first scene, because after you knocked that track, or Mickey and Minnie knocked that track over, you are kind of thrown into a Western scene. And one of the best things about this to me is with a lot of the scenes, you're essentially entering dark rooms, and then all of a sudden the lights come on and everything's animated. And once again, you see this effect if you're in the first and or second car. If you're in the back ones, you're not really getting this effect, which is a huge part of the reason why I would want the fronts. But it's pretty cool just to go from like a black room to full-on animation all around you. It's pretty wild.
It's very well done. It's just so cool. And some of the rooms are constantly lit. Right? Like, not all of them go from black to projection, but some of them have at least parts that start black and then turn into color. And, like, I think it tricks your brain because, like, that it's a projector on it, right? But typically, like, even when a projector's off, there's, like, a black kind of hue. Mm-hmm. You can't see that at all.
Well, it's a really good projector. You ever gone to like IMAX and they have that thing where they'll have the split screen comparing,
That's exactly what it is.
And I love it always. So like when it always says on the screen, it'll go to black completely, and then in small text it'll just say, "Yes, the projector is still on."
That's what it is. You can't tell that it's so cool because number one, you can't see the light source, so there's no projector that you can like see, and so your brain like doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know. It's very cool.
Yeah. One thing I will say with this attraction that did surprise me, it is a lot more projection than I expected it to be. It's a lot of projection, but not in like the cop-out sort of way. It's just a lot of projection. No. It didn't bother me. I was just a bit surprised by that.
To be honest, I can't even tell like what parts of it are projection and what parts of it are paint.
You're telling me. I watched it on video, and like fourth time watching, there were things where like, oh, that's a physical animatronic with like a projection inside the head, like we've gotten used to with the Seven Dwarfs and Anna and Elsa these days. That's used very heavily for Mickey and Minnie and the other characters in this. But when that's up against a projected screen, it's kind of hard to tell the difference sometimes.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it all flows together very, very, very nicely. I love it. So
yeah.
After that Western scene, we end up in a festival/fair atmosphere. And in here, it's interesting. Of course, I'm a huge Great Movie Ride fan. I believe you were as well, right?
I would go on it.
Oh.
I wasn't.
Really? What is wrong with you?
No, that's why I love this attraction so much.
Oh, blasphemous.
I think it's such a better addition to Hollywood Studios.
We will get into that at the end of this, because we'll get into it at the end of this. But in any case.
Okay. I have reasons. I'm not just stupid. Listen.
No.
I have reasons.
So the festival fair area, I do think it's funny that a Twister is very much featured here. Now, there's a couple of things when it comes to this Twister, because number one, of course, it being the Great Movie Ride, we'd like to see little tributes. And there's some people have said this is a tribute to the Great Movie Ride. And there's, reasons to feel that way. Number one, there was supposed to be a Twister scene in the Great Movie Ride for reasons I won't get into here. They cut that and it became the whole Fantasia scene in Great Movie Ride. But they do have a tribute to Great Movie Ride in this section, because when you go into like that room where you see like the physical tornado, there's a mailbox that says "No Place Like Home" on it. So it's clearly a reference to The Wizard of Oz from the Great Movie Ride, which I think is cool. But the thing I find even funnier is that there's a sign in there that says "Twister, enter here." So essentially you're going into a Twister attraction at this fair. Universal Studios Florida used to have a Twister attraction. So I thought that
really?
was Twister Ride It Out, which is now this horrible Jimmy Fallon attraction at Universal Studios Florida. So they used to have an attraction called Twister. And I doubt it was in reference to that, but I gotta say it was one of the first things I thought of when I saw that, and I thought that was really
wouldn't surprise me.
Made me laugh.
Honestly.
So was there anything in particular in this room that you loved or?
The carnival room is, I don't want to say it's my favorite, but there's an animatronic kind of that appears. And
is this them on
Mickey
the balloon?
And Minnie. Yeah.
Yeah.
and their heads are articulated and they're projection. So like to me, that's in Disney's version of like a modern animatronic, I guess. So they come up with the balloons above them, but you don't see them when you first walk in or when you first are entering the room. And then all of a sudden they just kind of appear like up behind the facade, I guess, right? And then they just kind of like blow, and then they talk and their heads move, and then they kind of blow away and they disappear again. And it's just like cool. I don't know. I really, really like that. That's like one of my favorite parts of the entire attraction is that, which sounds stupid, but it's just cool.
That was one of the things that I honestly didn't realize was not part of the projection originally. It took like 3 or 4 times for me to notice that those are actually physical and in the room with you, which I thought was cool.
I think you're just not expecting it. And then it just kind of comes and you're like, oh, wow, that's physical. It's big too. And it moves so quickly. I don't know. It's cool. I love it. The Twister. Oh, this is what I was going to say. The Twister room. The wind is so strong in there that there's just like hats against the walls. The wind is insane. Like your hair will not look the same when you leave that room. Anyways, side note, but it's a lot of wind.
That's funny. I like that. So after that, there's the volcano and waterfall room. Now this is an interesting one because this is one where Mickey and Minnie pop out from like behind these bushes, and if you are in the last car, you will not see them. You might see it reset, like if you're looking for it, but you will not see them at all in this room. And I thought that was, that's kind of a big deal to not see the characters in this room at all. But it kind of just segues into this whole waterfall scene, which takes you essentially underwater. And that's a fun little sequence.
It is fun. And it's cool because the physical, and we'll talk about the last scene later, but they had the capability to like physically move sets and project things onto physical sets that moved. But with the scene, they didn't do that. They were able to kind of change it from the underwater to the volcano without actually moving the physical sets, which is cool. They just changed like what was there. So like it's very well done in terms of like what's projected. The whole scene changes, but nothing physically actually moves, which is interesting.
Does anything happen to the ride vehicles that make you feel like you're floating or anything? I mean, they're obviously on a flat, solid ground and they're trackless?
So, yeah, they're not the most advanced trackless ride vehicles in the world, right? They don't...
Was Rise better?
Way different ride vehicle. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Totally different.
Okay.
So these, it's almost like imagine you're still on the Great Movie ride vehicle, except shrunk down and it kind of moves quicker.
Okay.
Right? There's still and your butt vibrates occasionally.
I mean, honestly, I'd kind of describe the Rise ones that way, though, except for like when you're in an elevator or anything. Like the actual ride vehicle is just a fast-moving, great movie ride, in my opinion.
That's
anyway.
True.
So,
but this is also the scene where you go into I call them the bubbles. I don't know what they are. Where you go into that scene, essentially. Each car separates and goes into its own projection dome.
Oh, is that what happens? Oh, that's interesting. I just thought it was a giant screen, to be honest.
No, it's cool. So, yeah, each car separates and goes into its own projection dome. Oh. And the car tilts forward. So it does tilt a little bit, and then it vibrates and shakes. So you do feel like you're going over the waterfall, and then the wind is blown through the screen at you, and then all the cars kind of reconvene as you're going out back into the next scene of the attraction.
That's interesting. So that's kind of like a moment of Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey there.
Yeah, except it doesn't make you sick, and it's very short.
That doesn't make me sick at all.
No way, really?
No, yeah, Forbidden Journey doesn't bother me.
It makes me so sick.
Real? Oh, I think it's.
I wish.
One of the greatest
I could
rides
do it.
Ever. But
I do love it. No, I love it. I get sick, anyways.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that they were separate. I honestly thought it was just a giant screen that everybody was kind of in front of, like an IMAX screen. So that's really interesting. I did not realize that. That's cool. So then we've got this whole underwater sequence. As I mentioned before, if you're in the first car, you'll be in here very shortly. If you're in the last car, you get a good chunk of time in this room. So that's kind of interesting. But then we head into this jackhammer town with, Pete in his jackhammer. This is a very vibrant, colorful, cool scene.
Yeah, so there's so much going on in this scene. Like all of Mickey's friends are there, like Chip and Dale are there, and Donald is there, and Huey and Louie and Dewey. But they're not hidden. They're just like up in windows.
Yeah, It's one of those things. It's a repeat attraction, you know. It's one of those things you'll notice these little details every time you repeat it.
And I love that.
It's cool. Yeah,
it's just a lot of fun.
After that scene, I will say the most random scene in the attraction, I'm wondering if you feel the same way, is this dance class with Daisy.
Not only is it random, you're in this scene for a while. Like, it's a long scene.
I'm trying to figure out what the purpose of it was as far, you know, so basically you go into a dance studio, which was part of this little city that we were just in. So I guess it makes sense in that sense. It kind of feels like they just wanted to dance with the trackless ride vehicles. And like, hey, look what we can do. To me, just looking at it, I was like, oh, we got Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters in the middle of this Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway attraction. That's essentially what it is. And I don't know. It just felt very random. I don't know if they just needed these ride vehicles in a room so, you know, to not meet up with other ride vehicles or something. I don't know what the reason was, but whatever it was, it wasn't done in a way that I found great, is what I'll say.
No, it's just, I think it's, here's the technology that we have. Here's a really cool animatronic on a stick.
Yeah, it's weird. So there's that. Then we move on to this factory scene, and this is kind of the finale, and the most, very much like at the beginning of the attraction where I said I was not expecting that whole, you know, walk into the movie screen effect to happen. In this scene, you're in this factory, Mickey saves the day, and it essentially, the entire scene, the room that you're in before your eyes, and it's not like a lights off, lights back on sort of thing, like right in front of your eyes, the way it would be in a cartoon, you see this room transition from a factory to Run Amok Park where Mickey and Minnie are having a picnic, and it is one of the coolest things. It is the coolest thing in the attraction, I would have to say. I was blown away by this, even just watching it on video. It was so cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, the first time that I wrote it with my friends, like, we got off and I was like, did you see, like, I don't even know what they are when it's a conveyor belt, but they morph into trees. Like, the physical sets fold up and morph into trees. Like, did you watch the things turn into the trees, and then the traffic lights come out of the ground, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then we went in at this. It's just so well done. You don't even know, like, your eye, you think it's like a video, but it's not. It's like the physical sets are like morphing around you, and like lamp poles are popping up out of the ground as the scene changes.
Yeah, and it's only a couple seconds that it takes to transition.
Yeah.
So once again, if you're trying to like see everything that's going on, you're not going to do it in one ride.
No, and the incinerator turned into a fountain in 2 seconds, and you don't even realize that the thing has completely inverted itself in front of you.
So the thing I'll say about this attraction is the Scenic Illusion group knocked it out of the park with this. And this is, you know, I think we think back on the Imagineers who worked on Haunted Mansion back in the 60s and created all of these special effects. I believe it was Yale Gracie was in charge of that department. And they created all of these special effects that still hold up to this day and people love. And to me, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is like the modern day equivalent of that, where you're kind of seeing these effects that are really, really, really impressive.
And they've never been they've never been done like that before anywhere.
There's a lot of new effects, and even the old effects that are being used in different ways. Really just well done and phenomenal. And, you know, one thing we haven't touched upon at all, of course, many Disney attractions, we all think of the Sherman Brothers as writing some of the catchiest music from Disney parks that we still love today, like It's a Small World, the Tiki Tiki Room, and all those things. This song, written for this attraction, is an original song for the attraction. It's not from any of the shorts. It's called Nothing Can Stop Us Now.
Yeah.
And it's one of the catchiest tunes I've ever heard. I was just, all day, I was like, nothing can stop us now. I was like, can't get it out of my head. So good. It's
great. You can also download it on Spotify or Apple Music or iTunes if you want to buy it, if you really love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do really love it. I got to get it. It's a great song.
I know, it's great. I want the mixed version from the opening day ceremony. That's what I really want.
Oh, the one that they dance to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That won't happen, but I can dream.
You don't think so? Well, I'll just rip it from a YouTube video. I didn't say that.
All right, well.
But this attraction also features an original character.
Yes.
Chubby Bird.
Chubby.
which this Chubby bird, I'm going to assume you see in like every scene floating around somewhere.
Yeah, he does absolutely nothing and contributes nothing to the story. He really has absolutely no purpose, but he's cute.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with with Chubby.
Do they have plush toys?
They sure do have merchandise with him on it.
Well, the thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Chubby is orange, right?
Yeah, he's a version of orange or yellow, I guess.
Do we even know if it's a he or a she?
No, it's a genderless Chubby bird.
Okay, it's genderless Chubby bird who reminds me of the famous orange bird.
Yeah.
Which, I thought was a little interesting.
They sell him on all sorts of merchandise.
So one thing I will say, one big thing that, and this is a nitpicky thing, but it's something that I definitely noticed, and I was like, okay, this is the next generation of like fully encompassed immersed attraction, is when you look up, all you see is black ceilings in almost every room. It's a lot of black ceiling. And listen, this is part of every attraction, but with such a vibrant, bright, colorful attraction like this ride, it just really, really is obvious because of that, at least to me watching on video. So what I want to see 20 years from now when they're still advancing this stuff, I want to see the ceilings projected and, black lit as well.
Can I be honest?
And what? Did you not notice?
I did not look up one single time. Now that you're saying that, I don't think I ever looked up once.
That's fantastic.
Which is rare for me because I always go through and I try and figure out how things work and like where things are coming from and where the wind, even in the tornado room, I don't know where the fans are. I can't even figure that out.
Yeah, I didn't see lighting equipment or projectors or anything or fans, but I noticed a black ceiling, and like you said, it might be totally different in person, but I think that is like the next level of,
I agree.
Really fully immersing. And then after that, it'll be like, how are we going to get the floor involved, I
was going to say, you say ceiling, but my biggest pet peeve is just the stupid concrete floor that is literally gray concrete. Isn't even black like Rise. Like it's just gray concrete. I mean, it's polished, but it is gray concrete.
Now.
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, that would be like my minor little thing that'd be like, I want to see that plussed in the future, in future attractions and stuff. But other than that, from what I saw, really, really loved it. The thing I'll say about this is, obviously dark ride attractions similar to this have been around for years in Fantasyland with Snow White and Pinocchio or whatever. But the scale of this one is huge. Like you're not in tiny rooms where it's just a small little room that you're riding through. These are large, large spaces being filled and really well. It doesn't never feels empty at all.
Yeah, no. And I'm glad you said that because these rooms are literally like, they're so massive. And I think we forget how big the Great Movie Ride was.
Well, that's the thing. I got to be honest, the whole time I was watching, I was like, okay, so what room would this have been for the Great Movie Ride?
Yeah.
I was always thinking that. And
it's huge.
Like you said, it was completely bulldozed. So it's probably no figuring that out at this point, but it's crazy.
Yeah, no, they're very big rooms. And that's something that you always notice, I think, too. And that's a cool thing. It's just like the scale of it. Like if I was a little kid on this attraction,
I'm going to be experiencing it for the first time in October when I go to Walt Disney World with 10 DePaulis going to Walt Disney World, and 2 of which will be I think my nephew will be 4 years old at that point, and my niece will be 2, if I'm remembering correctly. And so like their minds are going to be blown. And my one thing I'm hoping, right now, he does not like meeting mascot characters. And I'm really hoping he warms up to Mickey Mouse by the time we go, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Some fun facts about this attraction. I love that all of the sound effects are practical sound effects in this attraction. They were re-recorded using props and such. These were not coming from a digital library. In fact, the train whistle that we hear is the original whistle used for Steamboat Willie back in the day. That's incredible. That's awesome. I love that. Super, super cool.
Yeah. I think there was a lot of criticism of this attraction, but I think Imagineering, like a lot of people that worked on it really cared about it a lot.
What was the criticism? What do you mean?
I've
always heard people excited about it. The only criticism I've ever heard was, why are you taking away the Great Movie Ride? Which I still agree with. But like, as far as quality of attraction, I've never really heard much criticism.
Listen, the Disney Twitter community is deep with people who just have opinions on everything. And I've seen a lot of opinions that it wasn't that it was awful and boring, or
Really?
they didn't like the utilization of the trackless ride vehicles. And there's a whole slew of complaints that I have seen, but.
Well, that just shows how little time I spend on Twitter for some obvious reasons.
Yeah, it's toxic.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But anyways, I think it's cool to see that a lot of people still care a lot about like what they're doing there, and a lot of like thought was put into a lot of this attraction.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that about every attraction, even the ones that I think are horrible.
Oh, absolutely.
I think.
But it's just
same with their movies
see.
And stuff, you know. Yeah. I think the people working on them always care about them, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's everything creative.
Right.
This, to me, this is an attraction that's going to be in the park for many, many years. It's now in the iconic building. That park still doesn't have an icon as far as I'm concerned. Is it the Chinese Theater? Is it Tower of Terror? Is it Star Wars now? Like, who knows? But maybe someday they'll figure that out. I do think that that's a big problem with Disney's Hollywood Studios. I miss the Earful Tower is all I'll say. But I love the fact that they use all these practical sound effects. I think that's cool. And if you pay attention, apparently there is a B story going on in this attraction. If you pay attention to Pluto throughout the attraction, he is trying to bring Mickey and Minnie their picnic basket, which apparently they got separated from. So
yeah,
lots of stuff to see and notice. So much fun.
We didn't talk about the final scene.
The transition?
No,
or
the picnic scene. The best scene.
I thought that was part of the transition scene.
I mean, it's a different room. Let me just, for a second, sorry. This is my favorite scene. And the Pluto audio animatronic that's inside is my favorite animatronic that I've ever seen Disney make ever, which is so stupid, but it's the cutest thing. He just kind of tilts his head and nods, and he's holding the picnic basket in his mouth, but you can't, it's so seamless. Like you can't tell what is projection of his eyes and his facial features versus like what is like actual practical, I would imagine rubber or whatever is being used on his face. And the coolest part is this is where, if you're going to get stuck in the attraction, this is where you get stuck. So like if something's happening at load or unload and the ride vehicle stop, this is where you're going to get stopped. And they don't ever stop singing. So they'll sing the Nothing Can Stop Us Now song.
Nothing can stop us now.
Yes. And they'll sing that song. But when they're done, and if you're stuck and the timing gets off, they just sit there and they whistle. But nothing stops in the entire scene. Everything keeps going. The birds keep going. Pluto keeps going. I don't know. It's my favorite. It's so cute.
Well, the thing I like that you said there is how you can't tell the difference with the animatronic of Pluto between the projected parts and the actual physical parts. And I'm happy to hear that, because that's the next step for those. I think that those animatronics are super cool, but I think it's still very obvious where one starts and one ends, especially with like the females with their 5 o'clock shadow under their necks and stuff with Anna and Elsa. It's funny. But, you know, I think that's the next step, is making it as seamless as possible. And that's good to hear that Pluto does that very, very well. I'm happy to hear that.
I really think they've figured it out. So,
yeah. Now, one thing we've touched on a little bit is the whole, you know, the location of this attraction. Of course, it's in the Chinese Theater at Disney's Hollywood Studios, which used to be the Great Movie Ride, which apparently you've lost your mind and you're not a fan of.
I'm 21. I didn't grow up with any of the movies inside the attraction.
Neither did I. I still just had a respect for Hollywood history, and that's the problem with your generation. I'm going to get old man here really quickly.
Right, but
you guys don't give a crap about anything that was made before you were born.
Correct. And those are the people that are paying to come to Disney's Hollywood Studios.
I understand. Here, now we're going to get in the whole thing here.
It's true.
No, and listen, Universe, I'm not disagreeing with that fact. I just think it's very sad that, you know, I always go back to Universal Studios when it comes to this. When Universal Studios Florida opened and I went, I had no idea who Alfred Hitchcock was.
Yeah.
Not a clue. And some young people listening to this still may not know who Alfred Hitchcock is. But it was because of the attraction at Universal Studios that I went home, I got excited, I rented Psycho, and I became a fan, and I started learning about, you know, the history of Alfred Hitchcock and older films that I didn't grow up with. It's a giant problem with people who are young who are like, I have zero interest in anything that was made before I was born. I understand it's a reality, but it's a sad reality.
That isn't me, but I appreciate that Disney at least is accepting that's happening, and they want the attendance to increase.
But here's
therefore
the thing.
They're removing things that people aren't interested in.
But is it the thing is like, I don't know. I feel like that's happening because nobody is challenging people. anymore in that sense. Sorry, this is going on a whole tangent. But
I know, yeah.
But like, when I was a kid in a theme park, it wasn't like me running to go to the Alfred Hitchcock attraction, but it was, hey, this is here in this theme park, so I'm going to check it out. And therefore, it made me a fan of something I might never have become a fan of because of that. So my fear is that by dumbing this stuff down, and that's what I think it is if you're just giving people what they want, I feel like you're dumbing it down to a point. You're not even trying anymore. I get it. It's a business move. I totally understand. Great Movie Ride would still exist if there were people waiting for it. The reason why I would argue the fact about this attraction being in that location is a problem is twofold. Number one, with everything that Disney now owns, between Fox and Lucasfilm and all that stuff, they could have made an awesome 21st century great movie ride using properties that only they owned. And I think that would have been epic. And number two, the reason I'm sad that it's gone is because originally they were like, hey, we're putting in this unique one-of-a-kind ride into this space. We have no place else we could put it, so we're putting it in the Chinese theater. So it's like, well, if you got to do it, you got to do it. But now they're like, nope, we're putting it in Toontown at Disneyland. And I would argue that Toontown, as much as they justified the storyline of walking into this theater and stuff and seeing the short, I think Toontown is a much better fit. This is a Toontown ride through and through, if you ask me. So it just saddens me that we lost something unique and original for something that's going to be carbon copied on the other coast very soon. That would be my argument with that.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it won't be carbon copied. Maybe there's not enough space there to fit the full attraction.
It's cheap to carbon copy. So will it be the exact same attraction? I doubt it because you can't do the exact same, but I think it's going to be pretty darn similar.
Yeah, I would agree.
And even if it's not, it's going to be the same ride technology and stuff.
Right,
so
yeah.
That would be my argument. They have done a great job justifying why it's in the building that is, because that was a fear I had going into this was... I was like, how is this going to make sense in the Chinese theater? But I like the way that they did it. You're seeing a short. Yeah. And I think that's really fun. In fact, Mickey Mouse had several shorts premiere at the real Chinese theater in Hollywood. In 1931, Mickey Steps Out, and in 1933, Mickey's Gala premiere. Both premiered at the Chinese theater. So I think that tie-in is really, really cool. Yeah. I will say that.
Yeah, I like it.
Speaking of the Great Movie Ride, though, I do want to mention, in the attraction, there are a bunch of Easter eggs or little hidden things. There is a great moving ride poster, apparently, during the fair scene, which I love that. I love that they paid tribute to it. There's a Yensid Valley sign in the final scene, and if Yensid, of course, is Disney backwards. And if you remember, Yensid was part of the Great Movie Ride, as that's the name of the sorcerer in The Sorcerer's Apprentice that we see. So that was kind of cool. And apparently the cat sound effect that they use in this attraction is the same cat sound effect that was used in the Great Movie Ride during the gangster scene. You can see a trash can shake in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and it makes a cat sound, and the same exact thing happened in that gangster scene in Great Movie Ride. So I thought that was pretty cool. Fun stuff.
Yeah. And the year, I mean, this is the obvious one, is 1928 is on the overpass that you first go under when you're entering the attraction.
Which is when Steamboat Willie premiered. And then there's another year, is 1901? Is there a 1901 somewhere?
There is. Birth? It's more hidden. It's in that same scene, but it's like behind a fountain or something on a fence post. I can't remember. It's in that scene though.
Awesome. Well, all I will say is bravo to the folks who created this attraction. Spectacular job done. Anything you want to add before we get to some trivia?
No, it's just so much fun. Like, that's all
it is.
People are like how, people always ask me, like, how do you describe it? Do you like it? Whatever. And I'm like, it's just fun. It's cute. It's fun. That's what I keep saying.
You had a smile on your face the whole time.
Like an idiot. I was grinning like an idiot and giggling the whole time. I loved it.
And you can quote Brandon that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is better than Star Wars: Rise of the Resistance. And with that, let's get to some trivia.
Whatever. Fine. You go first. Whatever.
No, you can say what you wanted to say.
No, it's just there's just totally different, totally opposite ends of the spectrum of attractions. And I just
I just thought it was a funny text that you sent.
Star Wars is fun for people that love Star Wars. I don't love Star Wars. I love Mickey Mouse. So,
Yeah.
That's it.
Cool. Alrighty, let's get to some trivia then.
Do you know the answer? Get your brain gears churning and play along. It's trivia time.
All right, Brandon, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
You go first.
Okay, when it comes to Mickey Mouse, of course, Walt Disney was a huge part of that, but there was also a man named Ub Iwerks who very much helped to create Mickey Mouse, and there is a tribute to Ub Iwerks in this attraction. Can you tell me where it is and what it is?
Is it an Oswald tribute? Or is
No,
it
there is an
to
Oswald,
him?
though. There's the Oswald Wins newspaper headline. Nope,
That's it.
just
I don't know what is a tribute to him though in the attraction.
in the big city scene, there is a place called the Iwerks and U-Works Waterworks. And this is a sign on a building, Iwerks for Ub Iwerks and U-Works Waterworks. So it's just a play on words with his name in there. So there is, obviously
Very
Walt Disney
interesting.
tributes in there, Mickey Mouse tributes in there, and Ub Iwerks tributes, which is pretty darn cool.
Huh. I love that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
So what is your trivia? Yeah, let's hear it.
So Mickey Mouse first debuted in 1928 in Plane Crazy, even though the company officially recognizes Steamboat Willie as their first short. Since then, there have only been a few voice actors who have actually been officially recognized as the voice of Mickey Mouse. Do you know how many voice actors there have been since 1928 as the official voice of Mickey Mouse?
Oh, gosh. So we got Walt Disney. We've got the one after Walt. Was it McDonald? I think might have been his name.
I'm going to be really honest. I don't know all of their names.
Okay. So there was Walt, then there was somebody. The next one I kind of know, and there's probably some in between here, but then there was Wayne Allwine, Brett, and, well, if you're probably off a number because you didn't realize that there was a separate voice actor for the shorts, so that would add another one.
No, this is included in that number. This is included. In
Oh,
that
okay.
number.
I'm going to say 5, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 6 or 7.
It's mind-boggling. There's only been 6.
6? Okay.
That's crazy. And it's like Walt Disney was one of them. Was the first.
That's kind of true and kind of not true. So as far as, like you said, those are the official ones that the company recognizes, but there was a good period, I want to say the 70s or something, where basically anybody could do any character voice. They were completely inconsistent, and whether it was an Ice Capade show or a short or something for the parks or whatever, it was like tons of different people doing it all the time. But yeah, as far as officially, there has been a very small number.
It's just crazy to me.
And how many heads of the Walt Disney Company have there been? We're on number 7, right? Number 7 CEO. So yeah, there's one less voice of Mickey, official voice of Mickey.
That's just, I don't know. I don't know why that's so crazy to me. That's just like so little amount of people.
Yeah, which is great, which I'm, all for as a person who likes consistency. But in any case, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Runaway Railway. I'm so happy that you enjoyed it so much, and I cannot wait to experience it myself come this October.
I think you're going to like it. I think
I'm going to love
you're gonna
it.
like
Based
it a
on the
lot.
video alone, I always expected to like it, but the video got me like really excited for it.
yeah. No, it's great. Thank you for having me though. It was fun.
I hope you folks enjoyed our discussion about Walt Disney World's newest ride. Don't forget that you can hear the latest Disney news every Sunday on the House of Mouse headlines in the Disney Coast to Coast podcast feed. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Before we go, I want to give a shout out to Leah Cloney Mathis, who has become the latest member of the DCTC community over at patreon.com/DisneyCTC. Leah has decided to support the show and gain some rewards along the way, and I couldn't be more grateful. If you'd like to join the community or even just check out the rewards with no obligation, check out patreon.com/DisneyCTC. That's patreon.com/DIZNEYCTC. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.